Aloha, everybody. I'm Eva Andrade, and on this episode of Faith in Politics, we're going to do part 2 of our tour of all the pregnancy resource centers on the neighbor islands. So let's chat about that. A new administration, a new way. Well, new only means now. You know, what's the current acceptable thing and who is the most important person according to the news media. On January 20th, President Biden accepted his role and called for a national day of unity, quoting St. Francis. Where there is discord, union. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is darkness, light. But what role will he have in making that happen? That part, my friends, was a little more vague. I am reminded of one day in history, John 18, when a group of men were praying in Kidron Valley because of all the anxiety and uncertainty that was happening at the time in Jerusalem. As soldiers came to arrest them, or so they thought, carrying torches and lanterns and weapons, Jesus rose and asked them this question, even though he already knew the answer. Who are you looking for? I am he answered, and the very power of his name caused every knee to buckle, and all the soldiers fell to the ground. Oh, the power of that name. Even in spite of that moment, one man rose and used a weapon to stop whatever was happening from happening, and others darted around, by all accords, pandemonium. And Jesus moved to heal the one who had been hurt, because only he can do that. Only he can calm the storm. Only he can sit down with sinners and forgive people who need that forgiveness. Only he can love those who despise him. Only he can heal the brokenhearted. No human leader can do that, and no man should ever set himself up to do that. But it doesn't mean that we should do everything we can in our power to be a part of the solution. While we hear more and more about what the government should be doing for us and providing for us, and the trillions of dollars that it's going to cost to make that happen, maybe it's time for us to start asking what we can do to give our time and our treasure to heal this great nation. It reminds me of also some great words that were spoken on January 20th, 1961, by President John F. Kennedy, when he said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country." And at that moment, my friends, we become the you in unity. And that's my thoughts for this week. Let's just jump right into this great interview we have today. And once again, I'm sitting across from the very beautiful Janet Hochberg, who is for the second week my co-host in today's show. Janet, welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you for having me back.
As always, such a big pleasure. You know, Janet, as I was writing the monologue, and I'd love to give your thoughts on this, because we're talking about the pregnancy resource centers, one of the reasons that I wanted to start with that is because a lot of women, when they're facing unplanned pregnancies, are experiencing anxiety and pain, and they don't know where to turn. Sometimes there's even self-loathing. Sometimes there's even hatred at the gentleman who put them in this situation. There are so many things happening to them that cause them despair. And I thought of Jesus saying, "I am he." And the pregnancy centers play a very big role in introducing that he to them when people request it. And again, we talked about this last week, right? That the pregnancy resource centers don't force Jesus on anybody, but they are there as a light in the times of darkness. What are your thoughts?
Wow, yeah, that was pretty action-packed, that opening, and very powerful in and of itself. And, you know, these centers are they're the hope, they're the lighthouse, right? They're the refuge, you know, in the safe place. And that's what Jesus is all about, right? He's all about goodness. He's about having, you know, a perfect, loving plan for our lives. And he is the only one that can truly 100% alleviate that anxiety. You know, there's a scripture that I think of a lot, and it's in the Psalms, and it's King David is saying, you know, crying out to God, you know, when the the armies are closing in all around him in battle. And he just cried out to his sovereign God and said, when my anxieties multiply within me, O Lord, only your word is able to delight my soul. So here is intense anxiety going on inside this king, and yet he knew in God he could find delight somewhere in there. And I think that's what I'm certain that's what these centers provide. They provide a safe place for these women and girls to come to that are plagued with all kinds of emotion, knowing that they're going to be prayed up before these women get in there.
Yeah, and I love that it's not just another number.
Right.
Every person that walks into one of these pregnancy resource centers are given whatever support and resources are necessary. And as you know, last week we went to the beautiful island, Big Island. We went to Kona, we went to Hilo, and also we went to Windward, Oahu here with the Aloha Pregnancy Care and Counseling Center. But today, Janet, we are flying, not, literally, figuratively
Shucks.
speaking, we are flying to the beautiful island of Maui, and in the beautiful part of Maui, which is Wailuku, and we are welcoming to the show today Joy Wright from the Malama Pregnancy Center in Maui. Welcome to the show today, Joy.
Good morning, ladies. It's an honor to be here with you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, we're so privileged and honored to be speaking with you. So, Joy, tell us a little bit about the pregnancy center there on Maui and your work with the women and men there on the island.
Well, thank you for this opportunity. Yes, we've been serving the beautiful community here on Maui since 2014. And with the unconditional love of Jesus Christ, we offer a safe and judgment-free, welcoming, loving environment to women, men, families that are struggling, those that are facing unplanned pregnancies. We offer help and hope to them, and we offer healing for those that are struggling with a past abortive decision. All of our services are completely confidential. They're free of charge. We offer pregnancy testing, counseling on pregnancy decisions, ultrasound services, and then classes for women that are carrying their precious child, whether they're going to give their baby up for adoption or parents. So we have prenatal and birthing classes, and then we have parenting classes, and we offer material assistance and all kinds of referrals to helpful resources in our wonderful community.
That's amazing, all of the work that you do. And one of the things we talked about last week, Joy, is that a lot of people think that the pregnancy centers, all they do is pregnancy tests. But, as we're talking with, all of these great centers out there, including yours, there are a lot of resources that are available to the community. How, if these services are free to the community, how do you do it?
How do we do it? Well, we are, first of all, grateful for our partnership. So we are a nonprofit, so we're supported by 28 churches here on our island, and then wonderful businesses and individuals. We have many volunteers who give of their talent and their time and treasure to come alongside of our families and women and clients to offer them services. And then we have partnerships with other agencies on the island here to help those that maybe have housing needs or addiction, need help getting through addiction, need help with food and other practical needs such as that. So we really like to come around our clients and help support them in every way that we can so that they can thrive as individuals, as families, as mamas and babies, as help our dads thrive. So yeah, we really have a heart to help them in every way that we can.
Yeah, thank you, Joy. How incredible just the hope that you bring to these women and families. And as you mentioned, the daddies, and the grandparents and just everybody that's involved with a woman or a young lady that is faced with a difficult pregnancy decision. Your name is so befitting because when they do make a decision for life, it's just filled with immense joy, isn't it? You see these girls and women that come in abortion minded or vulnerable, you walk them through, the 9 months of pregnancy, or they see an ultrasound, they see their baby, the heartbeat, they choose life, they're bonding already. And then at birth, they're looking into their new baby's eyes and they're hooked. It's undeniable. Would you agree?
Absolutely. It's absolutely the most incredible thing to witness, seeing a mama, family, aunties, uncles, grandparents, as you had mentioned, rejoicing and excited over this precious child that they've birthed, that they're going to parent, that they're going to raise. Or I think that's probably the greatest delight that we get to enjoy, to see the tears of joy when they see the heartbeat and the ultrasound, or how so many clients have said to us, choosing life for their baby is the best decision they have ever made. It's great joy. And I just think of the joy on our island of all the first birthdays that have been celebrated, and all of the children's lives that are being infused with so much love from the community and their families, because children are a joy and they are a blessing.
Sorry, I just love that you said that about the first birthday, because a lot of people watching that maybe from the mainland, they don't know that one of the big things we do here in Hawaii is big baby luau's for the first birthdays, because here in Hawaii everything is about the ohana. Everything is about the family, and I think that the pregnancy resource centers do that. Joy, give us a story of hope.
Oh, I would love to do that. We just walked through a beautiful story with a young lady this summer, actually this spring. This precious young girl had called our center in absolute anxiety and panic. She had started the abortion pill process. And she was upset at home, and her mother had asked her what was wrong, and she had told her mom that she was pregnant and that she had started the abortion process. And her mom told her, "Oh no, this is our baby. We're going to help you. We don't want you to have abortion." The young lady had said that she didn't want to have an abortion, and she had reached out to our center. She was crying and left a message saying that she had regretted making the decision for an abortion, and if there was anything we could do to help her. So we called her back, and she had an appointment with our doctor. Our doctor prescribed the abortion reversal pill to her. She wanted to keep her baby. She regretted her decision. And she came into our center again 2 days after that with her mother and had an ultrasound. And when they saw the baby's heartbeat in the ultrasound, the baby's life had been saved. Tears of joy ran down their cheeks. And we had the honor and privilege to walk through the pregnancy with this precious young woman and her family. Her little girl was born last week. And she's one of the clients that said choosing to save her baby's life was the best decision she had ever made. We had the privilege to walk through her pregnancy with her, as well as those volunteers through her baby shower. We were able to help mentor her and prepare her for childbirth. And to know that her and her baby are healthy and happy.
That is awesome, and we really appreciate that. And unfortunately, we are running out of time, Joy. What's your website so people can learn more about you?
MauiPregnancyCenter.com.
All right. Well, we thank you so much for your time, and stay tuned, listeners, because we're going to be going to downtown Honolulu with Pearson Place. We'll be right back.
Join us for a March for Life special broadcast of One Life Matters. You are God's masterpiece.
A 2-hour special bringing awareness and information on how to fight for life.
Featuring local pastors, leaders, and much, much more. Friday, January 22nd, 4 to 6 p.m.
Broadcasting on Kalo TV, YouTube, and Facebook. Invite your friends and family as we remember that one life matters.
In fact, you are God's masterpiece.
We have a mission here at Kalo TV. We continue to be the only local Christ-centered media outlet in Hawaii. God has planted this station to nourish believers and to harvest souls for eternity. It's a calling we hold dear, and today we need your help. Partner with us as we continue to create original local programs
we're so very grateful for that whole journey.
Walking down to our story room.
Oh my God.
So it's where the state cannot tell the church how to run their services, what songs to sing.
Showcase solid biblical teaching.
We reach more people in one day with the broadcast of the gospel.
It's music to God's ears.
Improve our infrastructure and influence social media. In these dark and disruptive times, there's never been a greater need to be rooted in God's Word. The kalo plant has been a sustaining food in Hawaii for centuries, and Kalo TV aims to bring much-needed spiritual nutrition to these islands. Are you willing to labor with us for Hawaii, for your ohana, for the next generation? Go to kalotv.com and partner with us today.
Aloha and welcome back. Now that we went to Maui and we visited virtually, or, through the lines, what's happening there at Malama Pregnancy Center in Maui, now we are hopping to downtown Honolulu, and we are welcoming to the show today Susan Duffy from Pearson Place. Susan, welcome to the show.
Hi, Eva. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited. Both Janet and I has been so stoked to just have these conversations. Now, what's interesting about starting with you is that Pearson is the oldest pregnancy center here in the state of Hawaii, correct?
Correct. That's right. We're 50 years old. We've been here for quite a long time. We were established by Robert J. Pearson back when Hawaii first legalized abortion. He stepped up and offered his help to women who wanted to carry their babies.
That's amazing. So do you know a little bit of the story of why he did that?
Well, yes, he was one of the first pro-life activists here in the state of Hawaii, and he was actively opposed to legalizing abortion. And he was very vocal about it. And so when the governor signed the bill, he publicly offered his support to women who were pregnant who needed help. And I've read that in the very first year, he helped some 40 women that came to him. He actually lived on Maui, and he built extra rooms on his house. He took these women into his home. I mean, there's some amazing stories about some of the first people who were involved with Pearson and how they reached out to women to help them.
Can you share with us one of those stories?
Well, yes. One of the stories is that they would actually go to the airport when they heard people were coming in, and they would reach out to girls. And I was just talking to one of the older presidents of Pearson, and she told me how they would actually go to people's homes to help the girls. If they were, having problems at home and needed a place to stay, they would go there and they would reach out to them and try to help them. So they were very proactive in the movement.
I think we want our listeners and our viewers to understand that is I believe, one of the greatest gifts of the Christian community is, yes, the Christian community will rise when there's something that they feel they need to raise their voice to. But the Christian community is also one of the first communities to offer answers to all the problems. A lot of the early schools were started by people of faith who wanted their kids to be educated properly. A lot of the hospitals were started by Christians who felt that people should be treated with care and dignity. Here in Hawaii, we have St. Francis Medical Centers that do that very thing. And it was Christians that said, okay, now that abortion is legalized, what's the answer? And these pregnancy resource centers were birthed. And yes, I did say birthed. And I know Janet is sitting here, and I know she's got questions for you. So let me turn this over to Janet.
Hi, Susan. Good morning.
Hi, Janet. Good morning.
Hey, pretty awesome about Mr. Pearson. So just for a little bit of clarity, so Governor Burns did not sign the bill. He actually just let it pass into law without a signature. And so that was in 1970, 3 years prior to Roe v. Wade, the Supreme Court legalizing elective abortion on demand here in the United States.
All right.
So Mr. Pearson, what an incredible man. So my big question for you is, so not only did he start the centers on Maui and Oahu, you're down in the hustle bustle town of downtown Bishop Street, And but he started a whole bunch of them across the country, didn't he?
Oh, yes. He actually went to the mainland and ended up establishing some 200 centers.
Wow.
To help women. And he actually retired in Arkansas, I believe, and then he has he had a center there too.
Do you know, Suze, how many people are alive and fulfilling their God-given calling on their lives today as a result of his incredible work?
Well, Janet, I don't have an exact number, but I did come across a quote from Human Life International, and one of the things that they mentioned about Mr. Pearson was that he probably single-handedly saved more children than any other pro-life activist at the time, because he was one of the first and was so very active. And I do believe that there are many people alive today that are here because he helped to intervene. So they would probably be in their 30s. And there are still people who are around who actually worked at some of these centers. And he had at one time 13 in the state, and we're the only one left. But I've run into people who actually were counselors or who actually headed up centers here in the state of Hawaii.
Susan, I know one of the things that we talked with Joy about is because we know that the services that the Pregnancy Resource Centers offer is free. And so I asked her, well, how do you survive? And of course, she talked about the partnerships of churches and individuals who donate. I do want to give a little bit of a shout out to Knights of Columbus, because I know that they've done a lot of work to provide finances to pregnancy resource centers. Do you want to share a little bit about your partnership with the Knights of Columbus?
Oh, absolutely. They've been wonderful. I mean, they have they've had fundraisers for us. They really, really help us in our ministry and in our outreach. And I can tell you that even simple things like if we needed to install a new toilet or something, they would find some who donated not just their services, the installation, but I mean just the piece itself. So we are really fortunate to have the Knights of Columbus. I cannot tell you how blessed we are and how active they are and how supportive they are to our center downtown.
That's really great. And listeners and viewers, you can partner with any of these pregnancy centers that we've been talking about, and we really strongly encourage you to give of your time, your talents, your treasure in whatever way the Lord calls you to do, because they're doing really good work, but they need funds to make that happen. So if the Lord's talking to you right now, if you want to, you can reach out to me at eva@kalotv.com. and I will connect you with the closest pregnancy resource center, and maybe you can adopt them. And yes, I said the word adopt, so I did. I talked about birthing and adoption because this is important work of the pregnancy centers. Susan, in this last minute that we have, you want to give us a story of hope?
Yes, I would. I think that our recent move downtown and our new look has really done a lot to reach other people, and we are seeing clients and we are able to help. And I would like to also add that, if finances are a problem and sometimes they can't buy certain things, we provide that. I mean, I think that we are just lavish with, our generosity, and we can do that because of the donors that we have. So this afternoon I will be making another delivery of baby items like a stroller and some diaper genie and all the basic things that a new mom would need. So there is hope. We are reaching people, and if someone is pregnant and they don't know what to do and they have that instant feeling of panic, there is time, and they can come to our center and have a safe space to talk to somebody about all of their options. And we're a non-judgmental center, and we welcome anybody who wants to come in.
And what is your website, so if people want to learn more about what you do there at Pearson Place?
Our website is pearsonplace.org.
Great. Well, Susan, we appreciate all the hard work that you do there at Pearson Place, and we just thank you for saying yes to the calling to save babies.
Thank you, Eva. Thanks for having me on.
All right. You have a super great day.
You too.
All right. Take care.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
All right. Well, Miss Janet, as we have a few minutes left in this segment, we heard again from Joy on the island of Maui and now from Susan. But also going back to last week and hearing those 3 pregnancy centers we talked about last week, is there a theme that you're seeing come through with all of these conversations we're having?
The big theme for me is that God is faithful, that these centers are designed to, bring the hope and healing of Jesus Christ. As we talked about earlier, he's the only one that has the true antidote to the ills of society today. And I had to kind of take a step back for a minute and think about why God designs, sex, in marriage, between a man and a woman. And it's for many reasons, but a big reason is that these behaviors that we do outside of God's, economy get us into all kinds of trouble. And I don't think it's, necessarily intentional, but that's why God has a design for each one of our lives, in his word. And I love how these centers are built on a biblical worldview, because these women, take everything to God. They pray. They just have such an incredible sense of community, and they're very passionate and sincere.
Yeah, and we talked about this last week, that a lot of these volunteers, they are not paid. They do it because of the kindness and the love in their heart that they really want to give back to the community. And again, we cannot stress enough that the resources are not just pregnancy tests. We've heard from all of them so far that they do everything from counseling for the men to domestic violence awareness. They partner with people for drug abuse. Suicide prevention.
Exactly.
So
sex trafficking.
So they may not do those things necessarily in their centers, but they partner with organizations in the community that do. And I love that because they're promoting the other good work in the community.
Yeah. So the partnerships are really critical, very strategic, and that's really what it's going to take to continue to save these vulnerable lives.
Yes, and as always, we encourage our viewers and our listeners to do some research on the pregnancy resource centers. You're going to hear some bad things about the pregnancy resource centers because that's what Planned Parenthood does. They put information out there that's not true. So we encourage you to do your research when you hear bad things about the pregnancy resource centers, because you're hearing it straight from here, the ladies and the men that do the work. And I'm always amazed at how much good work they have. And it's really funny because I'm not sure if you all saw that, but Janet got nervous when I said, you're going to hear bad things about the pregnancy resource center. It's because we're at the Capitol, right? And we hear the negativity that's spun about the pregnancy resource center. So when we come back, we're going to be talking to Stacy Jimenez from A Place for Women in Waipio. And maybe, just maybe, we're going to find out a little bit more about the craziness that can happen at the state capitol, but also continued good work of the pregnancy resource center. So we'll be right back.
Aloha, I am Bishop Larry Silva of the Diocese of Honolulu, and I would like to welcome all of you to join us for this virtual March for Life on Friday, January 22nd at 4 p.m. on Kalo TV. Please be with us for this very important event.
We have a mission here at Kalo TV. We continue to be the only local Christ-centered media outlet in Hawaii. God has planted this station to nourish believers and to harvest souls for eternity. It's a calling we hold dear, and today we need your help. Partner with us as we continue to create original local programs.
We're so very grateful for that whole journey.
Walking down to our story room.
Oh my God.
So it's where the state cannot tell the church how to run their services, what songs to sing.
Showcase solid biblical teaching.
We reach more people in one day with the broadcast of the gospel.
It's music to God's ears.
Improve our infrastructure and influence social media. In these dark and disruptive times, there's never been a greater need to be rooted in God's Word. The Kalo plant has been a sustaining food in Hawaii for centuries, and Kalo TV aims to bring much-needed spiritual nutrition to these islands. Are you willing to labor with us for Hawaii, for your ohana, for the next generation? Go to kalotv.com and partner with us today.
Hi, I'm Susan Duffy, and I'm with the Pearson Foundation of Hawaii, and I would like all of you to join us at the annual March for Life on Friday, January 22nd on Kalo TV. See you there.
Welcome back. And I know that just like me, you're wondering, okay, we've gone through 5 centers, and now we're jumping to the beautiful Waipio Valley. And we're going to go to a place for women, and we're going to welcome to the show today Stacy Jimenez. Stacy, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me, Eva and Janet. It's a pleasure.
Okay, so now I know that our viewers and our listeners aren't seeing this, but our viewers are looking at this beautiful picture of you with this wonderful dog by the name of Rafa, whom I know. You want to share with our viewers and listeners why there's a wonderful dog in the picture?
Yes, I included Rafa because he's a really special part of our ministry and just the personality of our ministry. He's our therapy dog, and his little face that you're seeing is what the girls who are coming in or who are a little scared and don't know what to anticipate, they're greeted by him. And they're told his name is Rafa, and it means healer, and it can change the entire perspective of the appointment from when they walk in the door. They come in scared, unsure, they see his face, and they start pulling out their phones and talking about their dogs, and it kind of puts them at ease, and he's cute. You can see it.
That's amazing. And I love that because I've been to your center. Your center's beautiful. It's very welcoming. And Rafa is there to greet you. And I love dogs. I could have 20 dogs in my house if I could, but I can't. There is something that I'd like you to speak to, and I know Janet has some questions for you as well. It's, Joy. We talked with Joy from Maui, and she is married to a pastor. And I know that you are also married to a pastor, but I also know that Sue Skinner has been also a huge role in a place for women there in Waipio. So you want to share a little bit about Sue and Pastor Darrell's passion and maybe the beginnings of a place for women in Waipio?
Sure, I'd love to. Well, Sue's the reason a place for women exists. So her and Pastor Darrell are very pro-life, and a place for women was actually created as an outreach for Calvary Chapel Pearl Harbor's women's ministry. So, she really has a heart for women, and they decided in 2010 to open their doors so that women could have a place that was safe and supportive environment to seek the information that they needed surrounding pregnancy and other biblical counseling issues for women. So she's the CEO and founder of the organization and is still very much active. And of course, Pastor Darrell is too, because we're a ministry of the church.
That, and I know that you've had a little bit of I want to use the word run-ins, but I don't mean it that way because you are located in a church. And I know that people who don't appreciate what you do in the community, they use that against you, right? That you have to go to a church for these resources. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, we actually don't hear it that way a lot. We do have people that have come to the door and we can hear in the background, oh, I won't go in there, that's a church. And we'll go down and greet them and tell them what we do again and explain if they didn't understand what we told them on the phone. And it's their choice or not if they want to come in for the services. But we haven't had a huge amount of pushback since SB 501. And I can tell you last year we had 29 decisions for life, and that was in the middle of COVID. And those are women that decided to give life to their child. The point is, though, it doesn't really even matter the numbers. One life is enough.
Yes, absolutely.
On one life. And that's what society has kind of done. We hold the Christian human life. And society has moved from that value to a quality of life ethic, where it's very gray on what has value and what doesn't have compared to the Christian value, which is everyone has the same value in the Lord's eyes. And so we deal with a lot of those issues of quality of life issues, and that's led to, in 2017, there were 3,200 abortions reported at the Guttmacher Institute.
Let's talk about that real quick. I got to jump in. Let's talk about reporting there for a second, because I have a pet peeve about this, and Janet knows. She sees me already bristling. So, according to our state law, abortion should be reported to the State Department of Health, correct?
Correct.
Are they?
That's hard to say. We feel that the numbers are low, and I'll tell you one of the main reasons, and Guttmacher Institute recognizes this. On the abortion reporting form that doctors fill out, there is no line item for the chemical abortion pills. So we have no way if that is actually being reported or not.
Do we know if Planned Parenthood are running their centers according to the rules of running these centers that are medical or considered medical?
No, I have no way to know that, actually. I'm not part of their organization, of course, but, if they're not, somebody should look into it. But I have no way of saying that or not. There are numbers that are rolled up into the CDC from Hawaii, though, but those numbers aren't as accurate, we feel, as the Guttmacher.
Now, the reason I ask, Stacy, I'm sorry, is because, and I want you to speak to this, because this is another point of contention and confusion that's out in the community. What's the difference between a regular resource center, a counseling center, and a medical center?
Okay, so a pregnancy resource center will do options counseling and provide resources to the woman to help meet her needs from within the community. A pregnancy medical center is a true medical clinic, just like a Planned Parenthood, but they do different services, of course. They run under a medical license by a physician. So we run under Dr. Vivian Wong's license, and we have medical professionals, so registered nurses that are all licensed by the state, and we perform medical procedures. Ultrasound is considered a medical procedure. Our nurses do the pregnancy test. So we are a true medical clinic, just with a limited scope in what we do, whereas a resource center is not a medical clinic, and they provide peer counseling.
Mm-hmm. So how does somebody know this? Like if they're looking in the phone book or they're looking online, how can they tell if they're looking at a resource center, a counseling center, or a medical center?
Well, the centers should be listing their services on their website, right? And
correct.
And it should be able to be clear on if they provide medical services or they don't.
Are you the only medical center statewide that has that bona fide medical licensure?
No. Maui, the Big Island, I believe Aloha has a doctor.
Okay.
So no, I believe that Pearson's would be the one that is not medical yet.
Stacy, I know we don't have a lot of time, and I know you guys do a lot of resources, but I'm curious. So all of the pregnancy centers, do they fall under some kind of an umbrella? Is there a protection? Is there attorneys? I mean, how does that work?
No, it's really up to each organization as an individual organization to determine how they're going to run, just like any business would or ministry.
Mm-hmm.
So we've chosen to affiliate with groups like NIFLA that does provide legal protection and was very helpful to us when we did have the SB 501 battle. CareNet is another international group we're affiliated with, Heartbeat International, and ICU we recently affiliated with. And we get different services for each type of affiliation. One might be training services, one is legal services, one could be help with websites and marketing and things like that. But they're all connected, and it's really up to each center on how they want to run and who they want to affiliate with.
That's really good. And Janet, I know you have questions. I just want to jump in real quick because I want you to address very briefly the Senate Bill 501. And the reason that I had you last out of all the pregnancy resource centers is because you can speak to an actual bill that was passed here in the state of Hawaii that would have forced all pregnancy centers to post information regarding abortion. We did have a great attorney here that just happened to be Jim Hochberg, Janet's husband, who was part of this great fight to basically sue the state because it was unconstitutional for them to do that. And a place for women in Waipio was part of this lawsuit. You want to speak briefly to that? And I know it's like hard to do, but can you do it in a minute?
Yeah, that is hard to do. But, I want to emphasize something. Remember, a place for women in Waipio is a ministry of Calvary Chapel, Pearl Harbor. They wanted a church in the state of Hawaii to have to refer or let women know where they can get low-cost or free abortions. That sign was going to be on a church wall, which is completely against our conscience and everything that we believe. Now, we do educate women on all their options, including abortion. Ultimately, the choice is theirs.
Mm-hmm.
We do not believe in referring or performing these because you know what? We have abortion recovery classes here, and we're not going to send women to places where we know that they're going to need help, and we need to help them with their recovery. That doesn't make sense. So that was a long battle. Jim was amazing, and we can't be more grateful to him, and we appreciate everything that he did for us. But it's really shocking that they thought that they would be able to get a church in the United States of America to promote abortion.
And what was the outcome of that case? And then I'll turn it over to Janet for the final question.
Sure. So at the Supreme Court level, California had a similar case. It was Becerra versus NIFLA versus the pregnancy centers. And at the Supreme Court level, they won the case, the pregnancy centers. And because of that, they dropped the case in Hawaii. And in essence, we won because the Becerra one had already gone before us. So we do not have to put a sign up or refer, but we never did.
Great.
Stacy, really quick on the post-abortion recovery classes that are so important. So statistically, I know a lot of women have taken those classes. Can you give us some information on the classes and any stats on how many women have gone through it, and even men?
You know what? We've only got 20 seconds. So, Stacy, how about you do this? Give us your website so people can go there, and we'll have you back on the show.
OahuPregnancyCenter.com is the website.
Great. And we really do thank you. And that was a good question, Janet. Sorry, we're running out of time. We'll see you.
Thanks, Stacy.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, aloha. I want to personally invite you to join us for an incredible time together called One Life Matters. You are God's masterpiece. We're going to look at the giftings that God has given to us of life, the giver. So join us this Friday. Watch, learn, know, and grow. And let's not just be listeners, but doers of the word. Look forward to seeing you there. Aloha.
We have a mission here at Kalo TV. We continue to be the only local Christ-centered media outlet in Hawaii. God has planted this station to nourish believers and to harvest souls for eternity. It's a calling we hold dear, and today we need your help. Partner with us as we continue to create original local programs.
We're so very grateful for that whole journey.
Walking down to our story room.
Oh my God.
So it's where the state cannot tell the church how to run their services, what songs to sing.
Showcase solid biblical teaching.
We reach more people in one day with the broadcast of the gospel.
It's music to God's ears.
Improve our infrastructure and influence social media. In these dark and disruptive times, there's never been a greater need to be rooted in God's Word. The Kalo plant has been a sustaining food in Hawaii for centuries, and Kalo TV aims to bring much-needed spiritual nutrition to these islands. Are you willing to labor with us for Hawaii, for your ohana, for the next generation? Go to kalotv.com and partner with us today.
Join us for a March for Life special broadcast of One Life Matters. You are God's masterpiece.
A 2-hour special bringing awareness and information on how to fight for life.
Featuring local pastors, leaders, and much, much more. Friday, January 22nd, 4 to 6 p.m.
Broadcasting on Kalo TV, YouTube, and Facebook. Invite your friends and family as we remember that one life matters.
In fact, you are God's masterpiece.
Welcome back. Janet, we have now heard from 6 pregnancy resource centers in the beautiful state of Hawaii, and I am sitting here, I'm almost overwhelmed at the amount of work that I feel like have come through in these last 2 weeks. I mean, I would love to hear your thoughts now that we've heard from all 6 pregnancy centers.
Just how grateful I am that these men and women have put themselves out on the front line of this battle, because it is a battle. You know, Stacey Jimenez from A Place for Women NYPO made a really great point that it's not so much about, it's always about the sanctity of life, because we know that God ordained each one of us in our mommy's womb, right? But it's about the quality. Who determines the quality of life of each person? So if a teen girl comes into one of these centers and she just feels absolutely hopeless, there is nowhere to turn. I can't do this. I've got school, you know, all kinds of things. These people on the front line of life in these centers know the value of that baby within that teenager's womb, right? And they know the quality of life issue and what that means. And so I'm so proud of all of them. It's a big task, and yet they have, you know, you in your opening you talked about unity. You know, they see the need, and it's about service. It's about being others-minded. Jesus said, "I didn't come to, you know, serve, but to." I didn't come to be served, but to serve, right? And to give myself as a ransom, actually. Very powerful. And so I think these centers do such a service, you know, to the communities that they serve. And injustice is being brought, right, to all of these babies that sadly have lost their lives to the hand of an abortion provider. And I'm just really honored to be a part of the work.
You know, and the 6 pregnancy centers we talked to, Janet, that's not it. That's not the exhaustive list. We know that Catholic Charities runs Mary Jane Center. That's a home for unwed mothers. We know that Rachel's Vineyard is a ministry of the Catholic Diocese that is works with post-abortive women. And I know that there are other ministries out there that also do good work. Is there any that come to mind for you that we can also give a shout out?
The House of Ruth.
The House of Ruth, yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Harvest Life Family Ministries.
Harvest Life Family Ministries. And what I love about Harvest Family Life Ministries, Brad and Esther McDaniel, is they will help with adoption if there's an adoption issue. They also work, which is amazing to me, with the foster kids, the kids who are now wards of the state that have no forever family. And they will not only help identify parents, but they'll also come alongside them in adoption and foster care and work with them. Again, as we mentioned, the Christian community always puts their money where their mouth is.
Right, and that's what we always get criticized for, right?
Right.
You know, but no, these men and women, again, are just, their compassion and their love, you know, for those that need us most is such a great example of Jesus, right? Paul says, imitate me as I imitate Christ. And, you know, they not only speak it, but they live it. And their actions are very powerful, and they are making a difference in the lives of the people in our great state. And they are really sharing the true spirit of aloha, right?
Yes.
Something that we pride ourselves in this island.
Yes. Now, what I want to do is I want to turn the spotlight onto Janet Hochberg for a second.
Oh, boy.
Because what I want to do is I kind of want to, I've had you on my show before in the early days, in the days of Moses, when we were chiseling notes onto the stone tablets, you know, back in the early days. And before I do that, I want to do this. I want to make sure I do this, is I want to give a shout out to Kalo TV, the crew that work very hard behind the scenes to bring this program out to you. And of course, to K-Light Radio, who provides this beautiful studio to us. And so we're able to come here every week and to share with you because of the men that work behind the scenes and women. So we appreciate them to great extent. And also, if you want to partner to make this show happen, to grow this show, then we want you to reach out to either K-Light Radio or Calo TV and tell them you want to partner with them to make this happen. So we appreciate that. I wanted to make sure I did that. But I want to focus on Janet Hochberg here for a second, because I've had you on the show and you talked about your role in Hawaii Life Alliance. Now, Hawaii Life Alliance wasn't always called Hawaii Life Alliance. And if you want to hear Janet's full story about Hawaii Life Alliance, make sure you look us up on YouTube under Calo TV and look for the episode with Janet Grace Hochberg, where we talk about the birthing of Hawaii Life Alliance. But I want to speak to this because you have been involved here in Hawaii in the pro-life movement for many, many, many years. You want to share with us a little bit about your story?
Yeah, go easy, girl. The days of Moses.
The days of Moses.
It's really incredible because, yes, thank you, Calo TV and K-Light Radio. I came to the studio years and years ago with Pastor Danny Lehman. He was a pastor here. Now he and his wife Linda live on the Big Island, but when I was running the Hawaii Right to Life, which is the original that was birthed here in Hawaii in 1970 when Hawaii legalized abortion, Pastor Danny had a real passion, like a lot of these pastors do. They understood that. I'm not speaking for all pastors, but these incredible pastors knew that it's such a deep issue that when you devalue one human life, all these other social issues start to just go haywire. You get domestic violence. You have suicide. Seniors killing themselves together, right? You have kids that are just lost and wayward, because when you tell a teenage girl that it's okay to kill your baby, it's a spiritual war. And these pastors, I'm so grateful for all of them who have stood shoulder to shoulder with us through all of these years. But I remember at K-Light, Pastor Danny invited me on, and I was petrified. I didn't know a lot about the issue at the time, but knew that it was a critical one and that awareness needed to happen and education, needed to start being shared across the state. And I remember sitting in this K-Light studio and he was asking me all these questions and I had no clue, but and he was so awesome. I mean, I had a clue, but I was a wreck, but I became very passionate myself and, for some personal reasons as well, and knew that this was the fight. This was the ministry. This was the battlefield, which doesn't even belong to me. It's God's. And he has allowed me to have the privilege to stand on the front line and advocate for these unborn boys and girls, for our kupuna, for our, developmentally challenged population here in Hawaii. And it's been a privilege. So,
I'm getting so excited as you're saying this because I want to give a little teaser out.
Oh.
So 4 p.m. today, the virtual March for Life is going to take place, and you do not want to miss the testimony of Janet Hochberg. This is something that I think is going to touch a lot of people. Janet, I think people are going to see a side of you that maybe even those that have marched alongside you do not know. So stay tuned, 4 o'clock today. It's exciting. You don't want to miss it. Great speakers. And I want to dedicate a little bit of time to that, Janet, what's going to be happening at the virtual March for Life. But I have to date myself before I do that. I remember participating in the March for Life in the late 1970s and early 1980s, because at that time, a lot of the Catholic schools would bus their students to the Capitol, and we would have like battles with the other schools. Like I went to Star of the Sea, and so we'd have these battles with Sacred Hearts and St. Francis on who had the best banners. We'd have our uniforms, we'd be marching. And the March for Life back then was attended by thousands and thousands of people. I mean, it was hard to ignore the Voices for Life during that time. And I know over the years, Janet, is because you ran Hawaii Right to Life there for a while, and then it became Aloha Life Advocates, and then now it's Hawaii Life Alliance. Tell us a little bit about what that's like to put together a thing like the March for Life.
Yeah, it's very exciting. You know, it's an opportunity to really remember the boys and girls that have lost their lives to abortion here in the country, which is about 63 million. And, and those stats are probably a little off for many reasons. But here in Hawaii alone, just to really overemphasize that close to 400,000 of our very own keiki, our very own ohana, we take great pride and care in family here, right? Means everything in the world to us. And again, something very special and unique about the aloha culture and way of life here in Hawaii that others really envy around the world. So 400,000 children. So it's really a great platform to bring people together to not only remember these people, but to share on all these awesome, wonderful services that are out there to, give people an opportunity to see all the options out there.
Now, what number is this? Are we at for March for Life? We're at the
48th.
The 48th, okay. And so at 4 o'clock today, that's the official March for Life is the virtual March for Life, right? That's the official event.
Yeah, so we are the official sponsor, and we partner with the Catholic Diocese of Honolulu and the Knights of Columbus.
Okay, so where can they go, Janet, at 4 p.m. today? Make sure you just get rid of everything on your schedule because you want to participate. 4 p.m. today, they can watch it on Kalo TV.
Kalo TV, and I believe that is Hawaiian Tel Channel 38 and Spectrum Channel 25.
Or 1025 if you're if you got HD like I do.
1025.
Yes. And tell us very quickly, give us some of the speakers that they'll be able to hear.
Well, of course, Bishop Larry Silva is going to be sharing a really incredible message. We've got Pastor Waxer Tipton from One Love Ministries. We have David Tamala, Pastor David, really instrumental in the movement here in Hawaii for many years. We have, Tiana from Turning Point USA with an incredible, powerful message as well. Susan Duffy from Pearson Foundation. We also have Students for Life here in the islands are going to be speaking on their mission here on life. So it's a very action-packed lineup. It's going to be very cool.
So join us today, 4 p.m., Kalo TV on the channels that we mentioned, and you can watch it on YouTube and Facebook Live. So we'll see you at the March for Life. You are God's masterpiece.